Good morning. Thank you for coming together, family, friends, students, colleagues, to celebrate the life of a marvelous, marvelous person. Marty brought a lot of joy into our lives, and so it seems right and good to begin our time together with the psalmist's invitation. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all the lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is he that made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. Let us worship God with thanksgiving and celebration for the life of Margaret Lyons Ford. And let us begin by singing together in your bulletin, Joyful, Joyful, we adore thee. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Creator, in whom we live and move and have our being, never far from any one of us, but most near when we most deeply feel our need of you. Reveal yourself to us in this hour as the God who watches over all our ways and can, in every experience, lead us nearer to you. We have gathered here today for these services of memory and tender offices of faith, inspired by the life of Marty Ford. Help us to realize that you are the God of the living, that with you there are no dead, and that though she has passed from our sight in this world, she has been more fully received into that holy presence of the world unseen through the power and the love of our risen Christ. And we thank you, O God, for this universe, our great home, for its vastness and its riches, and for the manifoldness of the life which teems upon it and of which we are part. We praise thee for the arching sky and the blessed winds, for the driving clouds and the constellations on high. We praise thee for the salt sea and the running water, for the everlasting hills, for the trees, and for the grass under our feet. We thank you for our senses, by which we can see the splendor of the morning and hear the jubilant songs of love and smell the breath of the springtime. Grant us, we pray, a heart wide open to all this joy and beauty. Save our souls from being so steeped in care or so darkened by passion that we pass heedless and unseeing when even the thorn bush by the wayside is aflame with the glory of God. Amen.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is a reading from St. Paul's first letter to the church in Corinth. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand my body over to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now, we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love.
Great to see everyone here today to celebrate Mom's life. You called her Mom, Marty, Marg, Gram, Grandma, even 40, and she loved you all. And she loved Bridgewater. Mom cherished living here almost half her life, 40 years, in your warm and caring community. That she should find her lot on the hill, and she paid $9,000 for it back in 1973, and built her little cave, was really Providence. She was just so happy here. And here we are, family and friends of all ages, whose dignity and caring she so valued. Your love buoyed her and us, particularly so in the last 13 months. Mom felt a real part of her town. She had a sense of purpose in her many activities. She was a huge advocate for the teachers and the students, children, and served 13 years as a member of your regional school board. And I hope everything goes well on Tuesday. She stepped down just last spring at age 86. She enjoyed volunteering at the library for many years, and for 5 of those was in charge of overseeing a different artist's work being displayed each month with press and all of the reception that went along with it. She was really excited by those shows, and I got to see quite a few of them. There's a lot of talented local artists in this area. The Bridgewater Fair, what a special event, where Mom worked in the art hall each year. She loved her 10 years on the scholarship committee and enjoyed interviewing high school seniors. You could hear the happiness in her voice whenever it was time for her to go to the post office with her scholarship checks. She followed the achievements of these young people with interest and pride. Bridgewater store, where Marty saw folks she knew with almost every visit. She enjoyed taking friends and family there for breakfast or lunch. She must be smiling down now, knowing there are big platters of their sandwiches next door waiting for us. And then there's always something happening at the beautiful senior center, the hot spot on Hut Hill. Mom enjoyed computer classes. Well, actually, she didn't really so much, but she took them. She went lots of luncheons, and she socialized at the senior center. They're a wonderful crew. Just across the road at the recreation pavilion, we celebrated her 80th birthday, and that was a fun cookout. And did you know Mom was a justice of the peace? She married her neighbors in their backyard. I used to say, I can't believe there's always something happening in Little Bridgewater. There's always something going on. She went to lots of events and parties and delighted in each and every one. The tractor parade is a highlight of each year. You guys really go all out with your picnics and hooplas to show off your farm malls and your John Deeres and your National Harvesters. We learned a lot about tractors. You valued Marty's upbeat nature and spunk. You nourished her soul. Your friendship was a warm cocoon around Mom, and any request she might have was instantly answered. You are a special group, all you Bridgewater folks. You embraced Mom, and she adored you. Our sons, Dan and Joel, had many good times with Grandma, and they would like to share a couple with you now.
Thank you for letting us say a few words. Our grandma was always a big part of our lives, a pillar of support for both of us, and will continue to be. Just wanted to share a couple stories. So, she loved being outside. Some of my earliest memories were hiking and bird watching in Bolton down the Cape with her. Miniature golf is also one of our favorite activities, and Grandma was somewhat of a ringer on the mini golf course. Because of her hole-in-ones and low scores, Dan and I used to joke that she trained you around for our matches, which always gave her a big laugh. As far back as I can remember playing sports, I can remember Grandma being at our games. She especially loved to come watch our baseball games, and it meant a lot to have her there. There was always some extra excitement in me when I saw her on the sidelines, whether it was soccer, basketball, or baseball. We always watched sports at our house, none more important than our beloved Yukon basketball teams. As the men's and women's tourneys concluded this year with the Husky sweep, couldn't help but think that Grandma was somewhere smiling with her perfect brackets.
She came to all of our birthday parties growing up and got to meet a lot of our neighborhood friends at those parties. And more recently, when Joel and I would be talking about one person or another, she would know exactly who it was and remember them from 20 years ago at that time. And of course, every year we'd either travel down to Connecticut here, or she would come up to Bolton for Thanksgiving. For Thanksgiving, you could always count on a great feast, and especially great pecan pie, which I would always look forward to throughout the year. And as for entertainment, besides the football, you could always keep an ear out for some fireworks coming from the kitchen, as Grandma made sure that nobody got in the way of the turkey, green beans, or pies coming out just right. I remember all those Thanksgivings and such great times, mostly because we had the whole family there, with Grandma cooking great food and commenting on the football games. Even more of a tradition than Thanksgiving was Christmas in Connecticut. I can't come close to thinking of all the great laughs, jokes, roast beefs, presents, shortbread cookies, Christmas trees, trips to the movies, and candy canes that Joel and I were so lucky to be able to experience over the years. One of our favorite jokes was to say to one another, isn't Christmas the last Thursday of December and Thanksgiving always November 25th? Right in front of Grandma to make sure that she heard us. And as you can all picture, she would just put her hands on her hips and say, "Oh, rubbish." After so many years of this joke, she eventually just started saying, "Oh, sure, you guys think you're really funny, don't you?" I think one of her favorite traditions was the luminaries. And for those of you who don't know what those are, every year she'd support the Bridgewater schools by buying white paper bags, candles, and sand. And it was the job of Joel and I to construct these luminaries, and we look forward to doing this each year. We'd fill up the bottom of each paper bag with an inch of sand and then put a lit candle sitting on the sand. This would create really neat looking lights, which we would then put at the end of her driveway. All over town, people would do the same thing. And then once they were all out, we'd go out and drive around looking at all these lights that people had put out. So if anyone saw any cars driving around Christmas Eve with their just the parking lights on, that might have been us. Gives a little bit better of an effect with all the luminaries.
Christmas Day was always one of my favorites as well. We always got up early, and somehow Grandma's always ready to go. Up with us, cooking breakfast and making sure all the presents were out. After we finished with that, we always had nice walks around the neighborhood, catches with the football, and relaxing time with the family that I'll never forget. And of course, Christmas dinner, as Dan said, was one of my favorite meals of the year. I just want to share a quick story that happened in the past couple of years. After Grandma stopped driving longer distances, I used to pick her up on my way up to Bolton from New Jersey. And one particular Friday evening, 84 was at the parking lot, and it took almost 9 hours to get from here up to Bolton. And as we were sitting in traffic, we talked about a lot of different things: work, school, Lauren, Dan and Riley, Mom and Dad, Bolton, New Jersey, family history, friends. We listened to music, some hers, some mine, some both of ours, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, although my mom liked the Rolling Stones a lot, so I don't know if she was a big fan of it, but I think it grew on her a little bit. I gave her my opinions on the happenings in sports, which I am known to do, and she filled me in on what was going on in her beloved town. I'll never forget how much I enjoyed spending that car trip with her. It's just the very simple times in life, but the ones that you love that mean the most. And those are the times I'll always remember.
Like Joel was just talking about, him and I are both happy that Grandma was able to meet Riley and Lauren before she passed away. For both of us, this was obviously something pretty important that we value highly. And Riley and Lauren are grateful they were able to spend some time with her over the last few years. More recently, able to visit her when she wasn't feeling so great. They were able to experience a part of our lives that meant a lot to both Joel and I as we grew up. So we just want to say thanks, Grandma, for enriching our lives with love, great food, laughs, and lots of fond memories. We love you.
Well, good morning, and as my brother would say, it's Marty Ford Day today. And the theme is love, and it's here in the room, it's here in our hearts, it's here in the town, and it's up above, too. I thought I'd share a a few things of what I feel I observed that I know my mom loved, and some have been mentioned, but I'll start out with what I always thought was most important to her, and that was her teaching career and education. And teaching in Bethel Middle School and her colleagues, teaching in Andover Summer Session and her colleagues there, teachings of the Supreme Court, of the Constitution, and of history. I never got it as well as she did, and she was always ready to test me that why didn't I know that, but I know that she did, and she loved it. She loved books and reading, works by Thoreau, A.A. Milne, E.E. Cummings, Robert Frost, to name a few, and she loved her family, most of all. She loved her brothers, Rich, Tom, John, her sister Sheila, her sisters-in-law, Grace, Shirley. I'm not doing this so well, am I? and Eleanor, as I look at you and I forget your name, how embarrassing. She loved spending time in Cambridge. She loved to travel. She loved her stepmother, Toddy. She loved her children, and we're all here, grateful to be so, and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She loved her friends far and wide. Her college roommates from her Smith days, they remembered her fondly. One of my most happiest statements that was said to me shortly after she died was from her roommate, Patsy, who said, you know, your mom is the same woman today as she was when I met her at 18. And I thought, wow, I don't know what to make of that. You know? But I think that's a really good thing, and I was so glad to have it shared. She loved her primary care physician, Dr. Pett. Dr. Pett walked on water, and he loved her. She loved to travel. Independent as she was, she went to Scotland and Italy and France, New Zealand, on her own, sometimes accompanied, but not put off by being on her own. That was not a hindrance to her at all. And the boys have said about Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, she loved to cook, but I think those were the times that probably brought her some of the greatest happiness. She, not one to eat leftovers, not more than once. She loved to cook herself a meal every evening. She loved her birds. She knew them far and wide. She loved dogs, and don't mistake that with cats. She hated cats. She loved flowers of all kinds. I remember a lot of trips to the White Flower Farm to simply take in the beauty. And every year she'd buy some with enthusiasm and put them in her planter garden, and sometimes they grew and sometimes they didn't on that rocky little ledge on the hill there. She loved the Red Sox and the Patriots. And she loved bacon, butter, red raspberries, summer corn, buy it on the day it was picked, and eat it that day, or don't buy it at all. Bay scallops, Maine lobsters, summer tomatoes, single malt scotch, Chianti, that she learned to love being in Italy. She had a great sense of humor, and some of the humorists that she enjoyed were Doonesbury and Charles Schultz with the Peanuts Gang, and the wit and wisdom of Winnie the Pooh. And I would often call her on a weekend, and I'd say, what are you doing, Mom? She'd say, well, I'm sitting here watching golf. She loved to watch golf on the television. And tennis. She followed it with zest. And of course, she loved her Yukon Huskies, and it was no coincidence that they swept the series there. I got a couple of fun notes from my cousins who remembered her cars. She loved cars. Her little yellow LeCar and her black PT Cruiser that put a bit of a span on it. As long as they had a manual transmission, that was it. And she always had an eye for a flashy car. Ted Williams, Frank Sinatra, the Grateful Dead, a deadhead from the 70s, the New York Times, the New Yorker. She loved hardware stores, not the big ones, the little ones, where the guy knew right where the drawer was that had the certain screws that she needed. I think she should have had a hardware store in another life. And this is her time of year, with the peepers peeping, the forsythia yellowing out, the first signs of skunk cabbage, pussy willow on the grow, and of course, Bridgewater, as my sister so eloquently mentioned, a love affair to the end. What a wonderful place, where she could really become the Marty Ford that I've heard so much about. What a wonderful place. And she lived life on her terms. She was fiercely independent, not one to worry. If I heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not worried about that. I would do it for her, for wherever that got me. Not very far. true New England Yankee with her dry wit, her dignity, and integrity, and we miss her. There's a quote from Winnie the Pooh, perhaps a bit of whimsy, but my mom also loved whimsy. If there ever comes a day when we can't be together, keep me in your heart, and I'll stay there forever.